Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, now redubbed by Disney or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today, I have for you books 7 through 10 of the Jedi Quest series. We have now finished it now. We are very, very close to episode 2 now. We have like a couple comics, maybe some short stories, and one more adult novel, and then we're there. We're at episode 2. It's been a journey. Um, but yeah, um, I'll talk about them individually, and then my thoughts on the series as a whole, and get into small spoilers I have. So Jedi Quest 7, The Moment of Truth. We get reintroduced to a new old character from Jedi Apprentice, non-spoiler wise, so I won't tell you who that character is. And there's some good character development, especially in this one, for Anakin. Also, fun fact, this is a small spoiler, but it's not a big deal. It's a very small portion of the book. However, if you remember in episode 2, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the elevator going to meet Padme, they mention, Obi-Wan goes, I haven't seen you this nervous or tense or whatever he said since we were trapped in that nest of Gundocks or whatever, That, like, 4-second little sentence happens here. So it's very cool to have a thing that's mentioned in episode 2 happen in this book. Because now, when you go, if you read this book and then go and watch the movie again, you'll be like, I know what he's talking about. The adventure they had with the Gundarks. I read the book with that. See, and that's I love that about the expanded universe. Like, and this is a book for like kids in like middle school and high school, and yet this is the only way to know about that story because it happened here. And then it's the same thing with Yaddle's death. Like, that's such an important thing, and the only way to know about it is to read a young adult book. It's amazing. Like, all this effort put into it, like stuff that's for teenagers and like young adults that isn't necessary, but it's put in for the fans. And like, I love that little reference, and it's just really awesome. So that, plus the amazing character development and the character that returns, this book well worth your time. Jedi Quest 8, The Changing of the Guard. This one is continuing off of the last one. I can't get too involved with the plot. They go to a planet in search of Omega, of course, because we already know about Omega, and another character that they met or got reintroduced to in the last one. I'll say that there's some good character development for Ferris Olin in here. And unlike Matt Wilkins, I can't hate Ferris. Ferris seems like a good guy. I understand why Anakin doesn't like him, but at the same time, Anakin can be a bit of a jerk, especially in this series. I can't hate him. Not like Matt Wilkins does. I can't hate him, I'll say, without getting into really spoilers. We get a lot more with him. A lot more insights into Ferris Olin's mind in this one, and I appreciate it. I guess I should also mention, I don't know if I said this already, but there is a short. Never mind, not yet. Sorry. Book 9, False Peace. This one may be my favorite. It's tied between this and Book 6. So, in the middle of Anakin and Obi-Wan and friends trying to find Grant Omega, they have to take a break because the Jedi Council orders them back to Coruscant. We see, because of the manipulations of Palpatine, and because of Grant Omega, and just because of the unrest, there is a growing anti-Jedi sentiment. Now, this wasn't probably intentional, but there were people who were already pissed at the Jedi in Jedi Apprentice. They were just like little small mentions. Like, you had like a couple like workers, taxi drivers or whatever, that were pissed at the Jedi because they just do whatever they want and care nothing for the common man, which isn't true, of course, but that's how they felt, because they would just, like, in their minds, overstep their bounds. But it's, like, never really, like, focused on just a small thing. But here we're seeing that this whole anti-Jedi sentiment, this has been brewing for a while. Like, this isn't, like, why does people just willingly accept that the Jedi are evil by the time of Episode 3 when Order 66 happens? Right? We also, during the Clone Wars era, there's a lot of cool stuff that goes down, right? We don't really get to see the Senate politics that much, because who wants to sit there? What 8-year-old wants to go watch 2008 Filoni Clone Wars and deal with politics, right? Like, or at least like every episode. Now, I would have loved a series that just delved into that, or like, I don't know, a book that just like chronicled throughout the ages. I mean, it would be boring to some people, but I would have been fascinated to just know, like, during the Clone Wars, all the stuff that went on in the Senate with, like, the anti-Jedi sentiment, because that was brewing throughout the Clone Wars too. We just didn't get to see that because you want to see the cool action against the droids and stuff with Anakin Skywalker and friends and all that. But it's definitely a very good book for showing this begin, and this, because this is 2 years prior, or like a year and a half prior to Episode 2, before the Clone Wars has begun, and already this anti-Jedi sentiment is beginning. Also, this book is great at showing the friendship between Anakin and Palpatine, which would be very important. Of course, I think this was out in 2004, so like a year before Episode 3. But you can clearly see, I mean, they say stuff vague enough to where if you had no idea that Palpatine was the bad guy, you wouldn't necessarily know, but they also clearly show it if you know it. You can see it. Like, there's a moment Palpatine's walking, and Obi-Wan thinks that Palpatine's going to be assassinated. He finds Palpatine, quickly runs up to him, grabs his arm. Palpatine had his guard down at this moment. He was not expecting it. Now, Obi-Wan senses something. He's not sensing it from Palpatine, because the instant that Palpatine's touched, his guard goes up. But because he touched him that instant, Obi-Wan feels this vague weirdness of the dark side. But, I mean, throughout this entire series, the Jedi have been feeling the dark side because, you know, we're heading closer to the Clone Wars, and the Jedi are starting to feel the darkness rumbling within the Force. But of course, also, he thinks that Palpatine's about to be assassinated, so he just, asserts that with that, and it just helps confirm his thing, thinking that Palpatine's in trouble. But of course, he touched Palpatine and felt the dark side for a second because Palpatine didn't have his guard up. He thought he was alone. And so, because like you instantly see him go, oh, hey, Obi-Wan, what do you need, friend? Like, it was amazing. Yeah, so stuff like that. But definitely the whole relationship between him and Anakin in this book is really explored and really helps establish their friendship in Episode 2 that we see. And of course, why Anakin goes to him about killing the Tuskens, and which hasn't happened yet, of course. And why he's able to fall in Episode 3, or part of why he's able to fall in Episode 3. Book 10, Final Showdown. Of course, we finally get rid of Grant Omega. They go to the planet Korriban, which I love. If you know anything about me in the expanded universe, we go there multiple times throughout different decades, whether it be the Old Republic, here, even during Luke's New Jedi Order. This planet keeps showing up, and it's great. It's not Morabon, no matter what Filoni Clone Wars says. It is Korriban. That is what it has always been, and I always love going back to that planet, even though I really would have loved a little mention of Darth Bane or something. There was not. But I still love that planet. I'll say the events in this book, by the end of it, the one really, really good friend that Anakin had in the Jedi Temple, besides Obi-Wan, like someone actually his age, the friendship is broken. Ferris, for events that I won't get into, leaves the Order, the Jedi Order. And now Anakin's alone. All he has now is Obi-Wan, which probably could help show his little bit of angstiness in episode 2. I don't know. But it's a very depressing ending for him, for this book. And, I mean, then you get to episode 2, and he has Padme and Obi-Wan, and if you count TCW, Ahsoka, and that's, like, it. Like, he's friendly with some Jedi, other Jedi, but the only people he truly has are those 3 people, if you're counting TCW, otherwise 2. So I think that also doesn't help him down the road. Also, I forget which Star Wars Insider it's in, but if you can find it, there is a Star Wars short story called Reputation. I personally could not find this anywhere. The only reason I know it takes place here is because I watched Matt Wilkins' video. I can't speak to the quality of the writing. I did not read it myself, but I always want to make sure to include stuff even if I don't have access to it chronologically in order. So if you find it, congratulations, let me know so I can read it. This short story has to do with Cad Bane. It's just a little introduction to Cad Bane, the character who appears in TCW. So that happens around here. If you want a story about Cad Bane, that's the one, Reputation. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, the Jedi Quest series, it's not as good as Jedi Apprentice. Jedi Apprentice is unmatched. I think just because, even though we missed the 10 years between episode 1 and 2, episode 2 did a fair enough job showing us the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Of course, it was kind of antagonistic in that one. And Anakin's kind of falling to the dark side, at least a little bit in that one. But it did enough to establish things between them. Whereas with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, there's a lot of potential there to see more stories. And I think that's why I gravitate to that one more. Because Obi-Wan and Anakin's like relationship, it's shown throughout the Clone Wars and everything. And of course, episode 3 and 2. And it's great to have the additional information of, this in-between era with them. And to see how their bond kind of formed and all that. And that's cool in that sense. But the difference is that we have a pretty well-established relationship between the two. And it's just expanded upon here. Whereas with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, we only had the one movie. So getting an entire series of that relationship is developed, and we really get to see how they worked off one another really, really works. And I think that's why that one supersedes this one for me. But rest assured, this series is still great. Again, I will say to the end of time that the main story in here, like, oh, we're going to this planet to stop this unrest or whatever, right? Like those main plot stories are always just to get the character development rolling. And so in that sense, the main story isn't anything in particular, but neither was Jedi Apprentice. It was the characters and how they grew, how they interacted with one another. That was stuff that really mattered. But overall, I mean, if you like Anakin and Obi-Wan, and you're like, what happened in the 10 years in between episode 1 and 2, this series is a must. I think even more, Rogue Planet, you can skip. Outbound Flight, it's a great story. You don't need it, though. You can skip it. This, absolutely, you should read before episode 2. And if you haven't read Jedi Apprentice, you should certainly read that before reading this, because characters and everything will appear in this series that appear in Jedi Apprentice, and you'll appreciate it more if you read Jedi Apprentice first. As for Approaching Storm, I can't speak for that, and if that's a must read, but it does, take place like right before episode 2. In fact, episode 2 even begins with stating that Anakin and Obi-Wan have just returned from a mission. So, being the mission from Approaching Storm. But yeah, this series was absolutely phenomenal. Jude Watson is unmatched in, at least in young adult novels, understanding the characters. And she just does such a great job. And Jude Watson, you probably never watched these, but thank you. These are just absolutely phenomenal. And considering these for like middle schoolers and high schoolers, you didn't have to try as hard as you did, but you did. You put the effort in, and it really shows. So there you go. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I'm going to get into spoilers, but for those of you who didn't want spoilers, well, there you go. There's my non-spoiler. But, yeah, overall fantastic. I'm going to get into spoilers now. If you don't want spoilers, now it's time to go. Give it a like, please. Maybe I need attention. Share it if you would be so inclined. maybe leave a comment. I would just love to know what other people thought of this series, and I don't know, have a discussion about it. So, but yeah, I'm gonna get into spoilers now. If you don't want spoilers, now it's time to go. If you're a veteran or just don't care about spoilers, stick with me. So who do we meet in book 7? Well, that of course is Zan Arbor, the bad scientist lady from Jedi Apprentice, the one who tortured Qui-Gon. She, of course, returns again to work with Grant Omega. And, of course, Anakin's struggle in this book, he takes to water, Zan Arbor, and it just feels contentment. And we really get like this really heartfelt moment at the end with him and Obi-Wan, with him being like, I don't want to be the chosen one. I don't want this responsibility. And it's a really, really sweet moment between them. Jedi Quest 8. Again, Grant Omega, Jenna Zan Arbor, they're running off to another planet, so Obi-Wan and friends go to follow. And this is where we get the biggest character development, I think, for Ferris. And I really like, this is where all I wrote for book 8, spoilers wise, is I can't hate Ferris. I can't. I tried. I can't hate him. He's a good kid, but he just really, it gets, by this point in this book, Ferris isn't even like truly antagonistic toward Anakin anymore. He's trying to be nice. It's Anakin who won't let things go. He's the one who continues to be a jerk to Ferris. So, sorry, Matt Wilkins. I don't hate Ferris. At least not yet. Maybe I'll hate him on The Last of the Jedi. As of right now, I'm fine with him. In the book 9, of course, the false peace. I enjoyed seeing Bail in the Senate scene. But yeah, Bail Organa. It was cool seeing him in the Senate scene. Oh, and LOL, Senate scene. Oh, I hate the politics in the prequels. This whole book is politics. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was wonderful. And of course, seeing Bail Organa being a strong supporter of the Jedi, I love to see Bail Organa being the adopted father to Leia Organa Solo. Well, she would later be. In the original movie, she's just Leia Organa, but But yeah, I love that. And of course, Anakin and Palpatine. They had a lot of discussions that definitely seemed like grooming. And I definitely enjoyed that section. In Book 10, The Final Showdown, Anakin eavesdrops on Ferris and True, his friend, because they are at this Sith temple, and so the dark side's really affecting him, and he hates Ferris, and he's jealous that True went to Ferris, even though it's not what happened. Ferris went to him, realizing that there's something wrong with his lightsaber. Anakin could have shown up and helped fix it. Unfortunately, Ferris did. Ferris isn't as good with technology like Anakin is, but because Anakin was upset, he didn't. He said he would help him later, which I fully believe he intended on doing, but there just wasn't time with stuff that happened later. And True's lightsaber being malfunctioned caused one of their other Padawan friends to die. And so we get to the end of the book, and Ferris leaves the Order because of his mistake, and Anakin loses his friend. True doesn't trust him anymore. True thinks he understands who Anakin really is now. Someone who would let pride get in the way of protecting his friend. That he would let Ferris die just to get back, or let True die just to get back at Ferris and make Ferris look bad in front of the council. Of course, that's not the case. But, like I said, he has no one now. At the moment, all he has is Obi-Wan. And he vows to fulfill his mission as the Chosen One, bring peace, and become stronger than Obi-Wan, to be stronger than everyone, and to protect everyone, even if they don't appreciate him. Again, he started off really sweet. We're seeing more of the Anakin that we see in Episode 2, which is fitting, by the end of this series. But, yeah. Absolutely love these books. Grant Omega, he's fine. He wasn't my favorite villain. I like his motivations and stuff, but I don't like him as much as Xanatos. Big shock, right? Since he's living in the shadow of his father. But his pride, his arrogance, his need to get revenge on somebody who committed suicide anyway, but whatever, dies at the hands of Obi-Wan. And so yeah, that's where we end things. All we have left now is a couple comics. The Star Wars Episode 2 Adventures, Approaching Storm, and then at last we reach Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.